In a divorce, do you know the difference between custody versus care and control?
Can you afford a divorce? And how long does it take to complete the divorce?
Do you know there is a fast-track way to get the divorce done?
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Grounds for Divorce. Welcome to Grounds for Divorce. We are your hosts.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I'm a divorcee, I'm a realtor, and I'm a realtor who helps families going through divorce.
And I'm Isabel, ex-stewardess with Singapore Airlines and also previously a divorcee. We created this podcast because if you're a Singaporean thinking of a divorce today, you will most likely not find much information online. And the only way to find out is actually to speak to your friends or if not a divorce lawyer. But not many are ready for such information yet. In this podcast, we talk all things divorce, we ask the toughest questions, we review our most personal experiences, and hopefully you'll be better informed, better prepared, and come out a better person.
So, in today's topic, custody. Why? Because custody is where the divorce battles may be the fiercest. Parents can often be trapped in their emotions because they fear losing access to their children daily. And these battles between the parents often lead to long-term emotional trauma in children. So, helping us to unpack this complicated topic today, we have Iman.
Hi.
Hi, Iman.
Hi, Iman.
Hello. Thank you for
Iman.
having me.
Hi, Iman. Iman is a lawyer, right, for almost 19 years, of which family law has always been a feature for her from the very beginning, right? So, Iman, could you please share your experience, right? Or share with the viewers, right, a little bit more about yourself first?
Sure, no problem. So, my name is Iman, as they've said, and I am a divorce lawyer, amongst other things. I have been practicing for quite a long time, and I am dually qualified. So I started out my career in the UK, and then I've come back to Singapore, where I have been practicing for almost 15 years. And yeah, divorce, it's a big thing. I see a lot of unhappy people. Oh, well, okay, there are some happy ones. They're happy to be putting the past behind them and moving forwards. And it's always very emotional and pretty tough. It's even more tough on the kids. So I'm glad to be here to talk about this because I think there is some misinformation or misunderstanding sometimes, and people don't really understand what it is that they're trying to achieve for their children. But of course, for most parents, they are very keen to protect their children and prioritize them first. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and what I do. What are your burning questions you have? I can see on your faces you're dying to ask me things. So
Yeah, thanks, Iman. Yeah, that's a lot of information about yourself. And also, I know custody is actually a very big topic, but let's dive in. Let's explain. What is custody?
okay, so when it comes to the children, the court likes to make sure that, of course, in this big life change where their parents are splitting up, that they're going to be looked after. And there are three aspects to any custody order that gets made in the court. The first part of it is custody itself, which means the big decisions relating to the child, such as which country are they going to live in, what will be their religious upbringing, and of course, those big medical decisions that may need to be made. Really, all along in your marriage, these would have been made by both parents. And this is meant to continue even after the divorce, that both parents should still be having the responsibility to make those big joint decisions. And the next thing, the second part of the child-related orders, is the care and control, which very simply just means who's the child living with, mommy or daddy? Okay, and of course, if the child is living with mommy, then daddy has access, which means when does he get to see the child? Because he's not living with it anymore. Yeah, so when we look at this, a lot of people talk about saying, oh, I'm worried about the custody of my child, but actually you've had it all along and you will still have it. But it is, of course, natural that if the parents are splitting up, child has to follow one or the other, and then which one? And what happens to the other parent? So yeah, those are usually very hot topics.
Yeah. Wow, okay. But then this is the first time I actually hear about there's this part called the care and concern. Care control.
Care and control.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complicated term, and when we say it over and over again, I think people maybe don't really They don't think about it too much. I think very simply it is which parent is the child going to live with. So
Okay.
yeah, and for the parent who is not living with the child, it can be very heartbreaking for them if they're used to seeing their child all the time, and now they're not going to. Maybe they're restricted to a few hours here and there. Every other weekend. It's tough. Yeah, and so people fight about that.
But just now when you mentioned that, we are already living with our children, and then naturally that's already like the custody part. So to even begin this following of this process, what do I need to even do?
Okay. Well, there's with the filing of divorce papers, there will be a form when you have children which asks you to describe the arrangements that are presently taking place, and then to describe what arrangements you would like to take place after the divorce. So you actually do have to write things out like, where does my child go to school? Who normally looks after the child after school hours? And when was the last time the child saw the other parent? And what would you like going forwards? Because most likely you will not be living with the other parent. So where's the child going to go? Which parent are they going to go with? Yeah.
Sounds like I have to do some like documenting of what is going on, right? Otherwise,
it's just filling in a form. You don't really need to document. You probably already know. And you probably know what you want. You would know whether you want your child to live with you. And you would probably know that you want your child to stay in the same school if it's not too far away from where you're living or where you're going to live after you divorce. And you would probably maybe be more concerned with when's my child. If I'm the one who the child is living with, my concern, I guess, would be when is the other parent going to see the child, and also what's appropriate for a child. I mean, when you look at how much time should be spent, you also have to look at the age of the child. An older child, and by this I mean a teenager, they can come and go, and you also can't force them to do what they want, and maybe they can also make their own arrangements with the parent they're not living with to see them. But what if it's a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, or what if it's a baby? I mean, unfortunately, sometimes marriages can even fall apart when there's a newborn involved, which is, it's very sad, but it happens. And so when you think about the orders that need to be made, what is appropriate? If it's a baby, then I guess it's not as appropriate for the child to live with daddy than it is with mommy, because, mommy still needs to be there for a very young child.
So, like, if let's say I have to actually pen down or even fill out this form, do I naturally assume that I will get the custody?
You can probably assume that for most cases, there will be joint custody because both parents should be making those important big decisions for your child. It's only in very extreme cases, for example, where there's sexual abuse or extreme physical violence, which means more than just a slap or caning. I mean, we sometimes we cane our kids. I don't, but some people do. So it's much more than that. It's really very, very horrible, traumatic things. Then maybe we would say that, that parent should not be responsible for making the big decisions because they obviously don't have the right kind of judgment. If they had the right kind of judgment, they wouldn't be sexually abusing the child. So in that case, sole custody would be more appropriate. But if you're just saying, oh, mommy and daddy don't get along and, we can't get along, so we can't make those decisions together, too bad. You still have to come together and do it. The court will not really entertain you not getting along to be a reason for you not to be jointly responsible, because actually your judgment is still fine. You're just not getting along right now. Yeah.
True that. But if let's say, I heard you saying that, most of the custody are joint custody. But what if my husband cheated on me?
I'm sure that it's a terrible judgment and mistake and error on his part to cheat on you. But there's a different relationship between the adults as compared to the parent-child relationship. And just because he's cheated doesn't mean he's a bad father. Some fathers are wonderful, but they just are not very good husbands. So it's not really fair to the child to exclude. I mean, why do you want to exclude him, really? If he has a good relationship and he still makes sound judgments and decisions for your child, and that, you know, he still puts the child first, then why do you want to exclude him? Are you just trying to punish him? Because if you punish him, aren't you also punishing your child?
Yeah.
I mean, we look at it from a different perspective.
I don't know. If my husband is the one that cheating on me, I don't think I'm in the right state of mind to think about all this now.
That's
But-
also true. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very emotionally devastating time.
Yeah.
I've had people tell me that divorce is like having someone die. There's grief, you know, there's depression, there's anxiety, all kinds of things are going on, yet you still have to be a parent.
Yeah.
You know, that part never stops. So yeah, but I mean, you have to, I'm afraid that our court process timelines and you have to comply with them. So
But let's say I'm really angry, like, you know, I'm frustrated. I just want to have my child, to ensure that, you know, nothing goes to my husband, and even, like, you know, I want to take everything away from him. What would be your advice to this particular client?
well, okay, if I have a client who is looking at orders, I would say, that are usually, that what you're describing is an order which is outside the ordinary, because the court's not going to look at that. I mean, unfortunately, we don't punish cheating, or the court doesn't punish cheating by taking away everything from you, because it is effectively punishing the child. You may feel better if or a sense of satisfaction, but the trauma to your child is going to be there if they don't get to see the parent that they're used to seeing all the time. I mean, you can try and take his money instead. Maybe that's okay. We can help you do that. But, you know, putting the child first should be paramount. And that means you have to work through your own feelings. And maybe you need to see a professional who specializes in helping you work through your feelings and emotions and understanding why you feel that way and helping you move past it, so that you can give your lawyer the right kind of instructions.
Yes, I agree. So maybe coming from this aspect, right, where when somebody does you wrong, you know, especially the father cheated, right?
Yeah.
So my husband cheated. And then what happens next is, if I'm going to take away this fatherly role from my children, so who feels more painful? Maybe the man do feel the pain as well, but the ultimate pain that you are imposing is really on the children. So at least for myself, what I've been through, I refuse to use my children as the weapons. They are the innocent ones. They are brought to the world already. They have to face what the parents' arguments and the separation. They are no longer in control, right, with all this. So why do we want to add on more pressure to them? I find this not so acceptable. At least in my own opinion, I think children should be they should be protected as much as possible from this. So if the father wants to do his part, if he still is a good dad, the kids should still have the father. The other aspect that I experienced recently was, I had a friend. So I have a friend who went through a divorce. His wife cheated, and the wife demanded a lot of his assets. But at the same time, he gave all that he could to his ex-wife, mainly because the children are still young. So, but he got the care and control. It is a weird thing, right? Because the kids were like 3 and 4 at the point. Yet he was the one who got the care and control. So he went through the babysitting stage all the way until they reached primary school, where the kids needs to go to school nearer to where the mom is staying. So does it mean that, so the one who cheated was the mother, not the father? Yeah, not the father. So we always have got both sides to look at. So we can, but at the end, this friend of mine, all he wanted was, his kids are innocent. He wants the kids to grow in an environment that they should be still happy with. Although you are really taking away the family nucleus that they should have. Yeah. So to him is as much as possible, what he can do is to, if the ex-wife may be wrong, he's to give her whatever she needs. But he wants the children to be still safe.
That is a really commendable and good father.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's really looking past his own emotion. I mean, I'm sure he must have been very hurt by what happened. So, but he was able to put it aside.
Yeah, but what I look at it is like the father actually purely like really taking care of this relationship at a child's interest level, whereas the ex-spouse, the cheated wife, only cares about her personal interest. So, and like in all these fights, a lot of times I think when we are dealing with all this divorce process, dealing with custodies, we need to actually think in a deeper level. It's not just on personal interests.
Yeah.
We have to be thinking also at child's levels, your kids' level. So it's like to ensure that their needs and welfare are also taken care of. Right, Iman? Yeah.
I mean, as a lawyer, we try, but we're not your friends and family. We try our best, but you can lean on your friends and family for support. And as I said before, if you need a little bit more help, you can get professional help. But yeah, I mean, the children should definitely not be punished because they're used to having certain things. And it's a huge change for them. I've actually seen it in my own immediate family where we were at a family gathering and both the mother and father were there. And the child was really acting up because they hadn't seen their parents together for quite a long time. So you do then realize when you see it how affected children are. I mean, I'm saying this because I don't actually see the children. Of course, they don't come to my office. I only see the adults, and I learn of the experiences from what my clients tell me. But I don't see it always by myself. And it's very sad when you see that because you then realize how deeply hurt you can be. And I mean, I feel lucky my parents were still together, so I never experienced that myself. But maybe there are listeners out there who have gone through, who are a child of divorce themselves. And so maybe they know a little bit better what they would not want their child to go through, hopefully. Yeah.
But Iman, I also recently learned that you gotten this practice or what is that called?
Therapeutic justice.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
this is a new it's a new way of practice that the court and the powers that be up there have determined that everyone should be practicing. The idea behind therapeutic justice is to put the family first and to help the parties go through as peaceful and I want to say friendly, but it's not always friendly, type of divorce as possible. And so with therapeutic justice, the idea is that everyone collaborates together. This means the court. It also means the lawyers. And in particular circumstances, there will also be the holistic aspect looked after by a court counselor. So everyone comes together to try and put the child first and figure out what's good for the child and even try and shorten the process a little bit through having mediations and discussions so that maybe there doesn't need to be as much fighting. Yeah.
So where does your part come in?
So, as lawyers, actually fighting is very profitable for us. The more letters I write, the more I can charge you. And, the longer your case goes on for, the more money I make. And so this is actually, the idea of therapeutic justice actually is not going to make me a lot of money.
Okay.
And actually the court was very candid when they they do consult the lawyers because, we do the work and we're working with them. And they did say, well, look, of course, it's not because everyone knows that you can charge more when people fight.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we also have a duty to our fellow humans to really try and make this experience not as traumatic. I mean, because you carry the trauma with you, even into your next relationship. I mean, putting aside the children, even yourself, it is very hard to get over those things. You went from being a unit and you have maybe a social circle that's been intertwined. You're used to hanging out with the other couples or hanging out with your in-laws and your other families, and then now it's, well, what do you do? There's no guidebook. Nobody tells you. And it's also, as adults, okay, maybe you can process it a little bit better, but the children really can't. I mean, again, you have to look at the age appropriateness. You would not explain divorce to a baby, but you would definitely need to a child that could understand what's going on. Or even if they can't really grasp it because maybe they're 2-3 years old, they do notice. They're sensitive to these things, right? So you have to think of them. And sometimes I think that's hard because the way that we're all brought up is that, we don't explain these things to the children. We're trying to protect them by not involving them, which is also commendable. But then they suddenly go from a house with 2 parents and then they move to a new house, maybe with and only with 1 parent, and it's a huge upheaval and they don't see the parent they're used to seeing. So pretty devastating. So the idea is to stop the trauma. One of the things that I had to do as part of therapeutic justice certification is we have to go through the sociology part of it and actually look at the statistics and papers that have been written about the effects of divorce on children. It's actually terrifying. And okay, the big thing for Asians is that your child is less likely to go to university and the grades will really suffer. So they did do the statistics on that, and yeah. And that they will also end up having not very good relationships as adults because they have seen all of this trauma. So it then becomes a cycle and it keeps going on, and I think we need to stop it and we need to deal with it because it's just going to be really sad.
To be honest, sorry, if you allow me to share my own story as well, because while we are actually talking about that, especially the trauma, I was assume the childhood trauma. And this is really something that is close to my heart. First of all, to be honest here, to the audience as well, I do not have children. I feel a little bit disconnected from this topic. But when I realized back in, I think during the age of probably between 7 to 10, I can't recall which part of that, but then my parents was actually in this massive quarrel. Probably my mom thought that my dad committed some adultery. And then next thing I knew, my mom is already like deciding to maybe, let my father have me as the full custody or what you call it, sole custody thing here. And then coming from, this information came from my grandmother who often take care of me most of the time. And, back then, we do not have social medias, no internets. You don't even have a lot of network to begin with. So I'm basically like in this 4 walls, not knowing what to do. I just have to take instructions from grandmother or parents, things like that. I was really devastated. I thought that this is gonna really happen. I didn't like to be with my dad. Nobody talks to me. Nobody come and even like discuss what options can I or what are my inputs that is available as well during this process. So I believe this trauma did shape how I look at relationship nowadays.
Yeah,
it does impact for sure. And yeah, it's a lot to do it.
Well, thank you for sharing because that's really brave of you. How old were you when this happened?
So I was saying like between 7 to 10. So
Okay.
this is at least like.
So
Yeah.
so a lot of times I think maybe parents may not appreciate that actually their child does understand what's going on at that age, which is, they're not that old, but they still do understand. And sometimes in some fights as to the welfare of the child or what orders should be made, the child's opinion can be sought. If they're able to voice out, what they want, they do get a voice. And there's various ways that the court does this, actually. One is by having a child welfare report. So they have a social worker who comes and interviews the parents separately and the child and just looks at the general surroundings. And they are then going to give that report to the judge to help the judge make the right kind of orders that need to be made. That's one way of doing it. In other cases, there's actually something called a child representative. And the idea is to hire a third lawyer. The third lawyer represents the child. And they are the ones who interact with the child. They also do interact with the other parent, the two parents. And sometimes they even go as far as talking to the school teachers and anyone else that might be in the child's life. And they give a voice to the child to say that as a neutral third lawyer, they have spoken and this is what they see. And the difference in these two methodologies is the social worker's report is never seen by the parents or even the lawyers. Only the judge sees it. So it's a lot of mystery. And maybe sometimes when there's mystery, you feel like someone maybe has ganged up on you or you don't really understand why the orders that came out were made. Whereas with the child representative, it's very transparent. Everyone gets to see. And the idea behind it is that once the parents see what the child has said and it's in a report, then maybe that helps them come to an agreement rather than continue fighting over what they are saying, because, it's usually the father may say, oh no, this is what's best for the child. And mother says, no, I know better. Child is living with me, so I should be the one who knows and decides. And then children are also very good at acting differently with their parents.
Yeah.
They just want to please their parents. So maybe to mommy, they are saying, oh yeah, daddy's terrible. And daddy makes me do this and I don't want to do it. I don't like it. I don't want to live with him. And then maybe to daddy, mommy's terrible. She's making me do this. I hate her. She's saying all these mean things. Maybe none of it is true, but how does that parent know? And so that's why sometimes having that neutral third person in there, the child representative, helps to get to the bottom of that. I've seen it myself in cases where the client comes and tells me, oh, my child has said all of these things. He's having a terrible time with his mother. I want you to write a letter to the other side, listing out all these terrible things, all the grievances. So I'm like, okay, I'll write the letter. And then we get a letter back. And the letter gives a completely opposite scenario. And then, father says to me, no, mommy's coaching the child. Of course, she's influencing him against me. But actually, maybe mommy's just not doing anything of that. It's the child themselves who is so traumatized by what's happening that they just say what they think their parent wants to hear. And it's different things to different parents. And so you have to sometimes look past the unhappiness that you have with your ex-partner to be or your ex-partner, because that can cloud your judgment and maybe you're not even looking at it from the child's perspective. Yeah.
How old are these children usually when their opinions will be taken into consideration?
The youngest I've seen is probably around 6 and 7, but usually they're a little bit older. It really depends on the child and whether they're able to articulate their feelings. I think girls are better than boys at this. So yeah, they do that. That's not to say that the child's wishes are upheld every single time. I've also had a case where there was a teenage boy and he really wanted to live with his dad, and he told the judge, because in this case it was a judge interview because he was already quite old, so they didn't need a third person there. And he just said, yeah, I want to live with my dad. And the judge was like, no, you're going to live with your mom. Because we also look at the parenting regimes. And, in dad's house, he can go out late. He doesn't need to study. There's no structure and routine. He can do whatever he wants. So, of course, living with dad is great, right? You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whereas living with mom, oh no, I have to have restricted screen time. I must come home by X time at night. And then I have to do my homework. Oh, that's terrible. Why do I want to live there? I have to eat my vegetables. Oh, my goodness. So there's a lot of factors.
I see.
But, they do give a chance to see. But in this case, the judge said, this boy doesn't know anything.
Okay, so it sounds like
Yeah.
whatever that child says usually, in my layman term, is like they do take some discount. Like they don't believe whatever that is put down in the paper or said by the kid.
It really depends, because so when you have a social worker, they're an expert and they have been trained in getting to the bottom of things. So they will know, they look at the whole scenario and then they come up with their report and recommendation to the court. Yeah. So they do, for the most part, they do. but it also very much depends on the child.
But does Kathleen need to go through this part during your divorce?
I cannot remember having to do any of this. So, because for my situation, it was pretty much arranged. So, I had a conversation with my ex-partner, right? So, I told him the children have been in my care, and my parents are the people who are helping me all the while, all these years. So, there's nobody that can help him on his end. So the children generally should be in my care. But I have got no restrictions on him as in when he can access the child. So long as the children wants to see him, he can come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, to me, it is as simple as that. So long as the kids wants their father, the father wants the children, they can meet. They can spend their time together. But the day-to-day, somebody needs to control, somebody needs to give a structure, and then that person will have to be me, because otherwise does it mean no school? Does it mean that there is no playtime, no sleep time? It cannot be. So long as we have all this structured out, the rest of the thing is between the two parents. You're co-parenting now. So if it is for the love and the good for your children, then it's up for discussion. So fighting doesn't equate to happiness in the child. The children, if they don't feel happy, so you fight for who? I'm happy, he's happy. What's the point? I'm not fighting for a toy.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for my children. At the end, I want them to have the peace. I want them to be happy, and they should still grow up as, like Iman just shared, right? With the statistics shown that Asian kids going through that the parents has gone through divorce, they are traumatized, and they do not have good grades that comes. Am I worried? I am very worried. I am very worried because my
it was
kids,
actually shocking to me because, as lawyers, we don't look at the social statistics that much. We don't need to. But yeah, the studies do show, and then you do feel like it's like a call to action for me. It makes me want to help more, because I also feel that I don't want to help a client traumatize their child. Actually, that's really horrible. And in fact, I had once discharged myself from a particular case because I could see what my client was doing to their child, and it was not physical, it was more manipulative, and I couldn't be part of that. It was really, really very obvious, and I just couldn't. So, I mean, not everyone will be like me, I'm sure. Other people are just like, I'm being paid to do a job, so I'm going to do it. And that's fair, but I I can see the trauma that was coming out, and you can tell that this child is not going to grow up into a happy adult because of what's happening, and I couldn't be a part of that. I didn't want to be part of that at all.
wow.
Yeah, so there are all kinds of parents out there, and I'm very glad that you're very sensible.
I think at the end, what I want for my children are for them to grow up happily.
Yeah.
If we cannot provide them with already the environment that we so-called need to provide them with from the start, then at least we give them the peace that they deserve. So the first thing I forbid anybody from doing is to poison the children. To me, there is no point in poisoning the children to tell them who is wrong. Both the parents loves them, right? So it doesn't matter whether the father is wrong or the mother is wrong. But at the end, to the children, that's still my dad and my mom. So what do we want to give them is, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the adults settle their issue, but daddy, mommy still loves you. That's all that I wanted to give to my kids at that point when things happen to me.
Yeah.
So, and I forbid anybody from talking to the kids about who is wrong. Yeah, I never allowed that to happen. But today, do my kids know what happened? They knew. So because I think at the point when they were too young, they don't understand. So we can only explain to them in the best that we can why we can no longer live together as a family, but we are co-parents. We're still there for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the gold standard. And I mean, I hope that the listeners out there will realize that it is putting the child first and genuinely putting the child first and knowing your child and what's appropriate for them, which sometimes actually, you know, it doesn't mean that you spend. I mean, there are parties that come to me and go, I'm a very fair person, you know, I believe we have 50-50 of the time. So child spends half the time with me and half the time with the other parent, living with the other parent. And sometimes I'm like, okay, that sounds nice because the child is technically not missing out on any time with the parent. But in reality, isn't that just so disruptive? If you had to spend Monday to Wednesday with one parent and then Thursday to Sunday with another parent, I mean, how many school uniforms, school shoes? Do you have to duplicate your books? What if you leave something behind? It's a logistical nightmare, and it's not very nice. Or okay, you know, some parents are like, okay, 1 month. Again, I don't know. Is that really what's best? I mean, it's not to say it couldn't work for some people, but I don't know if it's right for your family. It is. But I think if your child maybe starts showing some signs that they're not happy with it, you need to pay attention to it, because sometimes what you think is fair is still not the right thing.
Yes.
I mean, maybe you're not even fighting about it. Both partners agree 50% of the time is the right thing, but it actually isn't. So there is a lot to unpack, actually. The lawyer can't always do it for you. But thankfully, they do have, before you file for divorce now, whether you agree on everything or you don't agree, it's compulsory for parents to attend, or at least the parent who's filing for divorce, to attend a co-parenting program before they can file. And then sometimes along the way, the court will also make orders for the parent to attend further programs to help them deal with going through the divorce and how to deal with it with the child, because they want to make sure that the parents really understand what's best for their child, which may not be the best for every child. You know, so it's trying to help.
Suddenly, this question pop up. Have you ever came across any client, instead of like trying to fight for custody, none of them wants the children?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough question. I think the answer is no. It's more likely the case that one parent does not really want to spend that much time with the child. But I haven't. I'm sure there must be, but I mean, I think there are other problems there then, and then one has to really look at the whole family scenario and see what's best for the child. But wow, that's really tough. That's tough.
That's very sad.
That's so sad.
Yeah, but
Oh no.
you know why? Because just now when you mentioned something about the having a third lawyer to take care of the part of, I mean, like,
To be the child's
To be the
voice.
choice.
yeah. I just realized that because I do have a sister who is a Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So what if a couple only have one kid and it's just a Down syndrome kid? Like, you know, how do they
So a
deal-
child with special needs.
Yeah.
So for a child with special needs, like, you still have to look at what's best for that child, and it may really depend on medical advice then as well, by whoever is the professional that's treating the child's particular issues, how best to promote, you know, stability and how best to help the child. I mean, it's also a very tough one, but hopefully even then the parents can look through. Or do you mean that they're going to dump the Down syndrome child?
I'm not sure. Just thought about it. I mean, like,
Okay,
it's
no,
not that
so-
I will do that.
So for special needs children, first of all, I think that parents of special needs children have that additional layer of sensitivity to the child, because they already know that their child is not the same as all the other children maybe. And so because of that, they're usually quite sensitive about it. I mean, we do also have clients who have children with special needs, and they actually are very careful to make sure that the child is protected as much as possible, and they're whatever their relationship may be very terrible with the other person, the priority is still making sure that their child is okay, which again, I commend them. It is genuinely hard to look past how much you hate the other person and want to murder them, but still say, okay, never mind, we still need to talk because we have to talk about certain things for our child, and to make sure that our child is okay through all of this, and that they don't suffer any setbacks because of the fact that we cannot get along anymore. Yeah.
Okay. What about pets? Pets are like our children, right?
Yeah, I know we were just talking on the way in here how many pets we had and how I feel like my pets are my child. But unfortunately, the law doesn't define the pet as a child, and it's also not quite an asset. So it is a thing that you own, but if you ask the judge to decide who's going to have the pet, the judge is going to tell you, sorry, I can't, because the law doesn't give me the power to make that decision. So that's tough. And maybe your lawyers can help negotiate it, or you can come to an agreement yourself. Because, yeah, I can imagine I would be devastated if I had to leave my pets and not see them anymore ever again. And I can actually say that some people have weaponized their pets to get back at the other person, to say, oh no, I want them, or I'm going to split them up, or I don't want to pay for them anymore, whatever it is. And yeah, no, sorry. There's not so much we can do from the court's perspective, but between the parties, you try and find a resolution that works for everyone. But yeah, that's hard.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been through that part as well.
Oh
but
my goodness.
At least it's a gentleman agreement. Basically, my ex just basically say that, okay, I just want this particular cat A.
Okay.
And I'm so willing to take cat B. And then that's it. Yeah.
Okay, I think if there was only one cat, there would be a problem then.
Oh yeah.
So I have a client who actually alternate weeks with the pet. I guess that works for them. And that's great. I mean, at least they could agree on that.
Yeah.
And nobody stood to lose anything. I don't know how the pet feels because, well, we'll never really know how the pet feels. But yeah, sorry, the court's not going to make any decisions.
I see.
If you ask your lawyer to argue it, the lawyer will get scolded.
Okay. So now we know
Yeah.
about the pets as well.
Yeah.
Hey.
But nowadays, right, it's so expensive to keep up with life. And of course, with children, it's even more stuff to pay for, right? So how does court really determine when it comes to child maintenance?
So that's another form-filling exercise. And actually, I think this is a very important topic, and great that you've brought it up, because a lot of the times in the marriage, one party leaves the other party to deal with all the finances, and they just have no idea what it costs. And then when the divorce comes along and you ask them, so what are your child's expenses? Can you give me an idea so that we know how much contribution needs to come from the other parent? They have no idea. They don't know what the utility bills are, like what it is every month. They have no idea what the groceries cost. And then all of us are groping in the dark to try and work out a number for them on a best ability basis. So important note, everyone should be in control of their finances and know what's going on. And if you don't know right now, please go and find out, because you can't run away from being in control of your finances. So, but what the court does is, you fill in a form and you put in all the, like a spreadsheet almost, and you have each item, so food and, utilities, internet, mobile phone, all the things that you can think of, like going to the doctor, the dentist, spectacles, contact lenses, school fees, school uniform, clothes, and, with big thing in Singapore, tuition and enrichment classes.
Oh, yes.
Those are actually very expensive. And so you list those out, and hopefully both of you know what it is. And if you don't, someone should be keeping the receipts. And then so the court can see, okay, this is what it costs. But parties can also see what it costs. And maybe when they see what it actually costs, they would be able to come to some kind of agreement. It is based on what the financial capability of the parties are. So for someone who is earning less, maybe they would be contributing a little less. And for someone who's earning more, they should be contributing a little bit more. But actually the starting point is 50-50, which goes back to the question about joint custody, which is that it's a starting point to know that for a child that it's a joint responsibility, whether it's those big decisions or paying the money every month. It should be 50-50 starting point, and then it's adjusted based on looking at the ability to pay. Yeah, but then you see that always leads to why do they need to take this class, and do we need to have rock climbing, and
you mean that what that actually comes from the court, or
no, okay, yes, to some extent. So sometimes when parties split up, the finances become more constrained, a little bit tighter, because instead of running just one household, you are going to be running two households, and it's one person responsible for each household, whereas before maybe you had dual income running one household. So the maths don't math, as the kids say. and it may be the case that some of these less necessary items will have to be sacrificed. But maybe the more important ones, which might relate to academics, they would continue. But yeah, we sometimes we go through these spreadsheets and we have to justify why it's this amount, and explain why it needs to happen, and go through all of that.
Yep.
But honestly, you would think parents can talk about this. They can't, right? I can see Kathleen shaking her head. It is a very sore point. Honestly, when you started off from a position of, I will give the world to my child, they are my prince or my princess, and nothing costs too much.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, because you don't like the other person, your partner anymore, then again it filters down to your child. And it's actually very hurtful for your child to know that now I can't go for this because, daddy doesn't want to pay for it, or mommy doesn't want to pay for it. We can't have it anymore. And does that mean he doesn't really love me or care about me anymore? So everything is tied back to the child's interest and the trauma that it's going to cause them. Yeah.
As easy as we talk about holidays that used to be as a whole family. So who used to pay for them? So once you separate it out, so now if mommy is the one who bring the kids on holiday, then who pays? Mommy pays. So would the daddy wants to pay for the mommy to go on holiday with the children?
No way. I don't think so.
It depends, actually. Maybe.
Maybe.
I think there are some parents who can see that there's a benefit to having the other parent there, because the children will feel more settled. I mean, I think this is usually for younger children, that for the first few times that they're traveling overseas, they've never themselves traveled with their children by themselves, and they do see the benefit, and it helps the children feel more comfortable. And yes, because it's technically daddy's holiday, then daddy does have to contribute, but he can't say, well, the children are coming with me, we're going in SQ business class, but mommy, you go on Scoot. Everyone should be going together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is like that. They do. I mean, up to a certain age, I think probably by the time the kids are a bit older, they don't really need both parents to be around. Although it's nice, and if you can get along and go on holiday together, why not? There's no court order that says you can't. You can always do that, and that's also an important thing to note about the order of court is, yes, the papers do say something, and that is to help you through those times where you are totally unable to agree to things. But let's say your court order says, okay, you see your child every alternate weekend, but something comes up and maybe you have to work, and then you should be able to go to your ex-partner and say, sorry, I have to work, can we swap? We just exchange these days, and hopefully they will just say, yeah, no problem, instead of, no, we must follow the court order to the T, because reality is the parent may not be able to take the kids because of work, and then what's going to happen to them?
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas if you swapped, then they still get to spend time, which is really what they want. Yeah.
There's a lot of retrenchment going on. But what if I cannot continue paying the child maintenance, or on what grounds does the court allow such the one parent side to not pay
as much, to change it? That's a very good question because, again, we always think that once the court order is made, it can never be changed. But the truth is that life has its ups and downs and that situations do change, and you can't make someone become bankrupt over this type of thing. So if the parents are not able to agree, I mean, hopefully they'd be able to talk it through and maybe say, well, okay, I've lost my job. So for the next 6 months, maybe I decrease it a little bit, but when I get a job again and the pay is steady, then I can increase it. And hopefully that the other parent would be understanding of that because, I mean, life does happen. And also if it happened to you, you would want the similar reciprocal understanding. But if you really cannot agree still, after all this time, you still have those angry feelings, you can go to the court and explain the change in circumstances and show to them what's happened and get the order varied as may be necessary. And yes, sometimes it does mean that everyone has to adjust their lifestyle because of it.
Right.
Yeah. So since you're helping people get through starting to find out about divorce, what's the most common question you get?
I actually encounter one lady that asked me, because they stay in a condo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but her income, because she has stopped work for more than 15 years.
Yeah.
She just recently came out
Yeah.
and her income is less than 2,000. She wanted to get a lawyer to help her with the divorce.
Mm.
Her current husband says, since you want the divorce, you go and get it done.
Yeah.
And obviously it means he's not willing to pay and chip in.
Yeah.
So she is in the, of course, then she starts to worry, So for people like that who cannot afford the full legal fees, as in what we pay on the private, with a normal lawyer.
Yeah.
So what else can they do?
Okay, there's a bunch of things that can be done. I think the first thing is to actually arm yourself with as much information as possible. And I think that maybe things have improved actually quite a lot. Like the court is quite cognizant of the fact that they need to give this information. So although maybe it's not the easiest thing to find, the court website does have online pamphlets as well as explanations and infographics about the processes of divorce. They actually do make available online for free the forms which would need to be filed. And so that's actually a good starting point to look at. And then maybe when you look at the forms and you digest them, you think, I can do some of this myself. Or maybe I only need a little bit of guidance. But if it's still confusing, actually there's all kinds of lawyers that suit different budgets out there. And when you Google for a divorce lawyer, actually I think they're really good with their SEOs. It comes up and they actually have the prices stated there. I would say though, of course, when you do click through on those, definitely read all the small print. Make sure you know what's included in the price and how the price may be varied when you want to make certain adjustments or amendments or have additional questions. And also there's a lot of law firm websites or other websites that do give all this information. But again, the OG source is the court website, and they're obliged to get it right, and sometimes not everyone gets it perfectly right. So that's a good place to start and to get that information there. Yeah.
But just now before we come in, Kathleen actually shared about one of her friend or whoever her contact tried to save some money but ended up felt being scammed.
Yes. So what happens was my friend went to a lawyer. She paid the upfront. I think she paid about close to $3,000. And then what she could get from the law firm was a paperwork that was meant to come in. It was told by her. She told me it takes about 4 to 6 weeks in order for the paperwork to come in.
Yeah.
So she waited, but 4 weeks and then no reply. She has to email them, and then they came back to tell her it's in progress. That's all she did. So she waited till 6 weeks. They were still telling her it's still in progress. So it's always in progress. And she was wondering what was happening. And she called me and she told me she got scammed. But again, like cases like this, I cannot say for sure. that what exactly is happening, because the lawyer that I seek, thankfully, Iman did a very good job for me. And this
Oh no, the truth is out now. All the revelations are coming forward.
Yeah.
No, I think why is that so is because I think to work with somebody, a lawyer that is, you resonate well with her or with him is important, because this lawyer will at least know and be willing to go through the whole process with you. It's not a one day event, right? It's not a one day event. So my advice to the viewer will be pretty much you need to, it's not how much money you pay, but it's at the end of the day, does this person helps you to get to your destination? What is the result that I want? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
I mean, I agree with you, because when you do Google and you see all these wonderful prices which feel amazing when you look at it, I mean, what is included in the price? Sometimes I mean, I can only say there are different lawyers out there, and I can understand maybe divorce is the first time you've ever had to consult a lawyer in your whole life, and of course you don't know what is supposed to happen, and you know, you can only really lean on people who may have gone through it before. So again, great that Kathleen is helping all of those people. But I would say that it is a tough journey to go on. The decision to divorce is actually the easy part. The going through the process is sometimes a lot harder, very emotional. And you do want to make sure that you are in the right hands, so that you have good communication. This is not to say that your lawyer is necessarily going to reply the email the minute you send it, because everyone has things to do, of course. But it should be within a reasonable time frame. You know, when you ask a question, you should get an answer. And if at any point you're not really feeling the vibes, then maybe think about talking to others. You can, as you go through all the law firms which are listed on the internet, you can find those which offer free first consultations, which gives you an opportunity to get to know the lawyer, or at least the law firm. And I mean, for the lower income people, there are also other resources out there. So for example, I volunteer at Jamia's Pro Bono Legal Clinic. And although Jamia is, of course, a Malay/Muslim foundation, it's actually open to everyone. And so anyone, any race, and, you know, can come and get free legal advice. I'm not there all the time. There is a roster. And so I'm there when I'm there. And if I'm not there, there'll be some other lawyer there. And there's other thing that there are community legal clinics as well, usually for wherever estate that you might be living in. They will often also have free legal clinics. I've not done one of those, so I can't really tell you what it would be like, but they should be able to help point you in the right direction of getting some resources to understand what you need to do. And also the court is, again, it's very cognizant of this issue. And there are new forms which I have seen, the draft new forms, I have seen them. They are not yet operationalized. We've been told it's coming this year. So these forms are much simpler and easier to understand. So if you were thinking you were going to file for divorce yourself, you can, with these new forms, I think it's going to be much more manageable. And also, sneaky, on the court website, they have the Family Orders Guide, which is sample orders that can be made in divorce proceedings. And it gives you an idea of what are the types of orders that could be made. For example, they have a category related to child orders, and then they give you all the potential options. So the wordings, and so it might be joint custody with care and control to mother and reasonable access to father, that sort of thing. So you can then from there read it and have an idea. I mean, I know it's a lot. I mean, I went to school for this. Not everyone has. But if you can't afford a lawyer, then the best thing you can do is to equip yourself with the information. It is there. It does take a bit of digging. You do need to be familiar with the internet. But it can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, So choose your options wisely. Do not just go for the cost only, you know.
Yeah.
You really need to vibe with the lawyer. You need to, yeah, because I heard it first time from Kathleen, right, on why in the first place we even like think about inviting Iman here. It's because she did a great job.
No, I'm gonna cry.
No, I'm not crying. Just crying. Yeah, so it's like really you need someone to really understand your situation, able to advise you objectively
Yeah.
when you're not in the right state of mind.
Yes.
It is difficult. And I mean that's not to say that everyone would vibe with me necessarily. You know, some men may not feel comfortable telling me their deepest, darkest secrets. You know, they feel a little embarrassed. And that's fine. You know, there's probably a fit for everyone out there. And some people choose their lawyers according to their budget. So even someone coming to my law firm, maybe they do like me and they get on with me, but they are like, no, you cost too much. But they're happy to see one of the junior associates who they know I've trained. And they know I'm hovering above them to supervise the work, but they're comfortable dealing with the junior associate who is not as expensive maybe, and they can still get a good job done. So it is, you know, you have to look at everything. And I would just want to say that sometimes websites are not the best way of telling.
Yeah, of course.
Because sometimes you have a most amazing website, but the people are not. Or you have a terrible website, but actually the people are great.
Yeah.
So don't necessarily say, okay, they have the most wonderful offices and the most epic Instagram or whatever it is. It's not necessarily a true reflection. There is no substitute for going down and meeting who it is that's supposed to be helping you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
This one I agree. Because to work it out in a divorce where it's a tedious process, right? So from the day that you decide that you want to get a divorce to the day that the divorce is completed, for myself, it took 8 years. So why is it so long? Because all of us have got different timelines, right?
Yeah.
We have different timelines.
Yeah.
And we need to have somebody that we can work with that follow through as well.
Yeah.
So children may be involved, your work can be involved, your planning of a family, your health, etc. All this will come in play. So therefore, then this leads me to my next question, right? So usually for people who wants to go through a divorce where it is, let's say uncontested or contested divorce, right?
Yeah.
Contested maybe is a question mark,
Yeah.
but uncontested divorce. So how long does the whole process take for the divorce with even the custody in place, you know, with the children?
Hang on, Iman.
Yes.
For the sake of the audience, right, can you briefly at least explain what is contest or uncontested? Seriously, before I filed my annulment, I never knew what the hell is this.
Oh
Yeah, really.
Maybe that
I mean,
good.
these are the technical terms and jargon that we are as lawyers used to using. So there is, well, okay, I guess contested means someone's fighting about something, and uncontested means you're not fighting. There are nuances in between all of that. So the starting point is that divorce is a two-part process. The first part is the change in your legal status from married to divorce. And that's one part of it. And you have to tell the court why you want a divorce. It might be adultery. It might be that you've separated, unreasonable behavior, whatever it is. There's some kind of breakdown. And that's the divorce part. And maybe the both of you agree on that part. So there's no contest. It's uncontested on the divorce because you both agree you can't be together anymore. However, y'all cannot agree about the finances or the children. So that part is contested. Sometimes you can agree some things. Like you might agree, yes, we're going to have joint custody. And you might also agree that care and control is with the mum. But you cannot agree on what time is spent with the father or how you're going to split the holidays. So you need the assistance of the court to help you decide that. So that might be a contested one. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tricky one, but that's the basic definition. And then within that, I know we're going to really go deep diving into this. There's a concept that's come up where you can put your divorce on a normal track. And the timelines for that, because you did ask how long is it going to take. It won't be 8 years, hopefully not. On the normal track, it probably takes a year and a half if it's pretty standard. But we have also a simplified track now, and that's really fast. So the simplified track is for a simplified uncontested divorce. Currently, that means you agree on the divorce and you also agree on all the other matters, and you've agreed before anyone files papers. So you both sign off on the papers, then it's filed. Whereas on the normal track, even if you agree something, but not everything, one person files first, and then the other person may say, okay, I agree to A, B, and C, but I don't agree to X, Y, and Z. And then it goes on the normal track and it takes a long time. But because in the simplified track, you've already signed off on all the papers, there's nothing more. The court just looks at it and goes, okay, can, chop, and it's done. So it's pretty fast. And that process will probably take maybe 4 to 6 months. That's also going to change. So I don't know though this information is going to be redundant very soon, because we again have been told that changes are coming, and that even the simplified track can have a contested element. Which means the simplified part will just be for the divorce, and then the ancillary matters, which are the finances and or the children, can still be up for up for a fight. And so they will fast track the beginning, and then the second part of it will be normal. So it's like a hybrid, but it's not yet operationalized. Again, we've been told it's coming this year, so I don't know. A lot of changes, a lot of learning for us as lawyers to do. But overall, look, the less you fight, the quicker it will be. And the more you fight, the longer it will be. Or in like Kathleen's case, it's not really because they were fighting, but Kathleen was taking it at her own pace. She had her own things to settle before she was really ready to take that final step. And that's another important point to think about, is that you don't need to be pushed. I mean, there's already probably going to be a lot of pressures, but you take that step when you're ready. And your lawyer should be supporting you and still be there 8 years later when you get that phone call. And you're like, finally, I'm ready. Okay, I'm like, oh, let me dig my file up from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's all dusty now. Yeah, so it takes as long as it takes. And the important thing is trying to keep everyone intact and sane and make sure mentally they're okay in this process. Because you do, as a parent, you're the one who's caring for your kids. You have to be strong for them. If not, you can't do your parenting job. So, don't invite trouble if you don't need to yet. Make your plans and also gather your information, because if you were also the person who didn't know what everything cost, you need some time to go and pull all that together and find out what it is. And, if you have that ready, that helps to bring down your lawyer's fees, because they then don't have to chase you and ask you or make a spreadsheet for you. You do it yourself, which is much better, because we're not that great at numbers. It'd be better if you did it yourself.
But so I didn't hear that. So uncontested, how fast is the process?
So the simplified uncontested divorce, where everything is agreed before filing. From the date of filing, it will normally be about 4 to 6 weeks before you get the interim divorce judgment. And then, of course, as you know, there is a cooling off period of 3 months before you can apply for the final divorce judgment. So that's why I say roughly around 4 to 6 months. It depends on the speed of the court in processing the documents, and also the speed of whoever's applying for the final divorce judgment to get it done. On the normal track, there are deadlines that run so that everything is moving forwards, but it's difficult to put a finite, okay, it will definitely take 1.5 years, because sometimes in the process there needs to be little side excursions to deal with things. So maybe someone is very bad at producing their documents, or because they're hiding things, then you need to go and get discovery orders done so that you can get more information in, so that the divorce is fair, or the division of assets is fair. Or maybe there's a real hot fight over who is the one who's going to be looking after the children. I mean, sometimes parents really cannot agree on anything, and they want to fight about everything, including where they're going on holiday, or wait for it, primary one, which school. I have been to court to get the primary one registration order.
Oh.
So sometimes it's that bad. It's not because the parents are not getting along. It's just because one parent says, I know best. My old school is the best school. That's where the child should go. And the other parent's like, no, my school is better.
Oh.
And then they can't decide, and then, they need the judge to step in.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's quite weird. It's quite tricky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't know about the part when you mentioned there's this 3 months cooling off period between the interim and final judgment.
Yeah.
But, by receiving all this judgment, do I need to be in court? Because I'm worried about this part, because especially people who are usually working parents, how does it impact me?
No, you're never in court. Your lawyer will do everything for you. Actually, for the simplified uncontested divorce, even the lawyer doesn't go to court. The papers are just filed, and then any communications will take place via the court sending out notices or correspondence to the lawyer, and it's done all electronically without anyone ever needing to do anything. For the normal track, again, for the most part, parties don't have to show up unless you're fighting about the divorce itself. So if you can't agree on why you're divorcing, there are people. So I give you an example. I can see your puzzlement, right? So for example, the wife wants a divorce because she says, my husband is a terrible man. His behavior is so unreasonable. That's why I want a divorce. And then the husband goes, I'm the best husband in the world. I love my wife so much, and I still want to be married to her. That's a contested divorce. Okay, so then you have to go before a court. The judge has to see your face and your husband's face and decide which of you is more truthful. Does he really still love you? Should I order that you don't get divorced? Yeah, so that would probably be the only time. The other time where you may need to have time for someone in your schedule is if there is a social worker involved. They will need to make time to see you, and it is usually during office hours, but they would usually also come to you. So that might be helpful. Otherwise, yes, of course, you also need time to talk to your lawyer. The great thing is that since COVID, we're so used to doing everything by video call that most of the time I take meetings by Teams video call, because who wants to come to my office? I also don't want to go to my office. I want to sit at home.
Okay.
So it's much better. Sometimes you don't need to go all the way down physically. Even signing documents, for some documents you can sign it via a video call as well. So it actually makes life very easy. Yeah.
Okay, but why do I somehow sit somewhere or watch some, cases on custody, probably in the States, children sometimes may have to turn out in court.
Yeah, so that does happen very rarely though, where the judge decides they want to interview the child. But I would say that the court is moving away from that and leaning more towards having the social workers interview the child instead, because the social worker may have better ways of getting answers out of the child that maybe a judge doesn't have. And they usually see the child in a more child-friendly environment, whereas if you brought your child to court and they see the judge in a court, well, they don't meet the child in the courtroom. It's usually in a smaller room like an office. But that's pretty traumatic probably for the child as well. So yeah, they're moving away from that.
When I first started looking at my own annulment, things like that, cost is very sensitive to me. But if let's say I'm just a very regular worker, I like Kathleen mentioned, I only earn 2K. Where else can I go? I mean, just now you mentioned
Jamia.
Yeah.
So Jamia is a charity, and that's why they're able to offer you being able to meet with a lawyer, and the lawyer gives you guidance on what you need to do, but they don't represent you. I mean, the idea is that you should be able to file for divorce yourself. You just fill in the forms and file it electronically at the filing bureau. So the lawyer can explain to you how to fill in the forms. And honestly, I have done that so many times. So many times. It's just to take people through the forms and say, this is what you need to fill in. And then, you need to go down and submit it. And also give you some idea about what possible outcomes may be for your case. But no, they don't represent you. They don't go to court for you. I mean, for the ordinary person, they usually won't qualify for legal aid either, because they usually have a salary, as well as they probably own a property. So that will disqualify them from legal aid. But for the very, very low income, yes. Or the no income.
Do you have the income bracket?
I don't, because I don't do it.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I think it's on the legal aid website. There is a means test that the criteria must be met in order to get that. But I think there are also resources like Kathleen, who is like a divorce coach, I guess. And she will be able to share and guide you to certain points. And then you can see from there whether you need, what kind of lawyer you need to engage. Because maybe you feel so confident after she's explained to you some things that you think, okay, yeah, I can fill in these forms. And especially when the new forms come in, it will be really very straightforward. Then you might be like, yeah, this is fine. I think that the filling in forms part is actually okay. But the going down to the filing bureau is more tricky.
I think I saw it on the Ministry of Social and Family
MSF. Yeah.
So the website actually do link you up to the correct to the correct place to get the forms.
Yes.
And they have got basic information, even the legal clinic.
Yes.
Yeah, about legal aid and all is there. And then what are the criteria that you need to fulfill?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the information is actually not that difficult to find, but they need to do their own homework. Of course, if you do not want to, if you cannot afford to pay, or you find that you want to save the legal costs, then you need to do the homework yourself. But if you feel that, okay, I do have a bit more means, financial means, and you want somebody to represent you properly, then go to a lawyer that can explain to you, follow through the process. Is a lot fuss-free. But because emotionally, during my divorce process itself, right? So to share a bit more, what happens was mentally, it was very draining to me already. I have to care about my own emotions, my children's emotions. And then you ask me, do I have the capacity on top of that, plus my work as normal, right? Then with my family, also worried about my situation. I need to take care of the old folks' emotions. I told you I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
The last thing I need was to find website A, understand what website A says is true, false. Then I go to website B, and then I need to find out whether is it true, false. Do I have this capacity? As a normal person today, of course I have the capacity. But back then, I told you I was totally, just get this thing out of my life. I am done. That was all that I needed. So that was why I went. I did read up first before I called Iman up. I went down to meet her. She spent time to explain to me so that I know that what I've read is correct. And next is to, what should I do? What do I need? Like Iman shared a lot today, right? So I think maybe later we might want to do a quick summary. So it's to help our viewers today to know that if you have this very nagging problem now, like which is, I am thinking of getting a divorce. What should I do first? What should I do next? So that was what I needed to know. So going to the, of course for us, I went into the internet as per anybody else.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, do I think that I'm prepared? I'm educated, yes. I can do a lot of form signing, everything, no issue. But am I doing it right? Do I still have the mind capacity to think, forms A to Z, have I done it all correct? Have I done this correct? How long do I need to wait? No, sorry, I don't. So I felt that I needed somebody that I can talk to who can give me the sound advice, because this is not just any form that I sign, it's not just any registration form that I sign in one piece of paper, I'm done. It's not. It matters. To get into a marriage was not that difficult. Getting out of this marriage with a lot of entanglement in this, it's really not so just, to me, it's not just as easy as just signing that few forms and I'm done.
Yeah, I have one more question for you though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know that your husband cheated and then things like that. Do you make him pay for the legal fees? Can we actually demand the husband to pay?
Yeah. Okay, but let me qualify that. Okay. So if we take it back to the divorce part, right, where you give your reasons for the divorce, and if you had succeeded on your reasons for divorce, then the other party can be ordered to pay for the divorce costs, which is just the divorce part. It's not usually a lot of money. It may not cover everything that you would have paid to a lawyer. And I'm only talking about the divorce part. If we move to the ancillary matters part, which is the finances and or the children, it's a little bit harder, again, to get him to pay. I mean, he wouldn't be paying because he cheated in that case. If costs are ordered against someone, that meaning that they have to pay the other person, it's because that person has been a terrible court participant and they have done things to delay, like they don't turn up, they don't have the documents, they're deliberately making things very difficult, they're wasting the judicial time, they're wasting everyone's time, then it becomes appropriate. So the short answer is yes, but there's a lot of things to consider.
Okay.
And also because the court's mindset is there's no winners and losers in a divorce. Actually, technically, everyone's the loser. So they don't want to make it seem that there's a winner and a loser such that the loser pays the winner's cost, which is very different to any corporate or civil actions. For those, it's very, very clear cut. The loser must pay the winner's costs. But for the family court cases, that's not the messaging that they want to send out. So most of the times it's actually a no. But if you're very good at negotiating, and some people are excellent, they can get their husbands to, or their other spouse to contribute, or maybe they split 50-50 the cost or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. But then it's like, after divorce, we have to continue with our life. We have to move on. So how is life after post-divorce for Kathleen?
Life is, as simple as I can say, is as per normal.
As per normal?
Yeah. So when you were single, you come together to form a family, then that makes there was a transition time, right? So from now being in a family to transiting out to being a single again. But of course, for myself, I have children, right? So with children in my life, but it's also just another transitioning out. Pretty much in the beginning, it was not as easy. So to the children, they emotionally they are also as affected as I was. So the children may be asking, why is daddy not involved in this? Why is daddy not involved in that? Can we get daddy to go with us? This and that. So there will be a lot of such questions. So of course, all this is how, as a mother, we want to, how do we want to give the kids the as comforting as possible situation and answers. So for myself, of course, I still involve my ex-husband a lot in our activities together. Even I invited him on a family outing with us. We went on a holiday together. So
really amazing. So amazing.
When I heard that, I was like, what?
It is what it is, right? Like the relationship cannot continue because he broke the vows of the marriage. And for me, I am somebody who holds my principles and my values and my morals very, very clearly. I cannot bend. So therefore, it's done, right? This man is done in my life, but he's still the man that I was with for many years and bringing forth my children. So my kids are not at fault. The kids had their father, and they should still have their father, right? So if he gets along well with the children, and he doesn't fight me when we're on the trip, I'm fine. If he, of course, he still picks on me and all. I'll ask him, the door is there, get out. It's as simple as that, right? So when we're on a holiday, he's like a friend. He is now like a friend. We are co-parents to the children. The children are happy. We are good. So till now, every birthdays, my birthday, his birthday, the kid's birthday, we spend family time. We have birthday cakes. We go on meals together. No issue. I still talk to him every week. When he sends the kids, I still see him. We still talk.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing that we don't do as a partner anymore, but we are still parents to the children. So at the end, you ask me, what is it like? My life has the drama is over, right? Once the drama is over, the rainbow is just in front of me. So how I want to live my life with my children, I decide. And in this area, I'm glad the thing is over. And of course, I wish for all viewers that are looking into this podcast today, they will find the rainbow for themselves. The day will come whereby they look back and they will just say, this is a lesson learned. Yeah, it's an experience for us. But, well, life goes on. It is what it is.
You have to make peace with yourself and everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first thing is to fight. At the end, to fight is really for just that. That's all you get, right? So at the end, how much better is your life from just that fighting? Nobody benefits. Nobody benefits from just a fight. But
I do.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes. That's what maybe only the lawyers do, right? But otherwise, is for the family, for the parties involved. There's enough pain, enough trauma. I think the best way is just to, how do we want to move forward in the next, in the best stride that we can take. I think this is the best outcome that all of us want.
Yeah. I mean,
Agreed.
that's really wise and really being able to see the top view. I just think that sometimes in the moment, it's very difficult for people to see that. And their main way of thinking is, okay, I've been hurt and I want to retaliate. I've been provoked. I want to kick back, fight back.
Tell me.
It's
know
irresistible. And I mean,
Yes.
it's human nature. It's really irresistible and very, very hard. But I think that if you really want your peace, then you have to be peaceful.
Yeah, I was good at that. I was so good at this, how to revenge, that I find myself scary. Very scary. I was good. Yeah. Even the private investigator said I could join him as a part-timer. Yeah, that was how good I was.
Side hustle.
Yes, so, but at the end of everything, it's just to make peace with myself was the most important, because this is who I am.
Yep.
Not the one who was revengeful.
Agree. But what about Iman? Like, I believe you did not wake up one day wanting to be a
divorce lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I started out. It just so happened that my first job as a qualified lawyer was working with the family law partner in the law firm that I started working with. And I guess that got me interested, because there's this very human element, and I am a very people person, and I think that my personality suits it. Being able to talk to people and helping them, explaining to them, and fighting for them when I have to. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can't be a lawyer that doesn't want to fight, because sometimes you have to fight, and fighting would be the right thing to do. But yeah, it's just more interesting to me than corporate stuff. When I look at some contracts, my eyes glaze over. or when I look at some other, civil disputes, I can do them. I do them from time to time. Maybe I'm just not as passionate about it. Doesn't mean I don't do it well. I can still do it because the skills are there and I can do it. But it's, I don't know. I just like, people's stories are so interesting. Honestly, no two cases are the same. And each situation is unique, which means you are getting to do something new and different every week. And that keeps it refreshing. But of course, yes, there is a emotional and mental element to that you have to to learn to manage, not to take your work home, because sometimes you do see things which are very distressing. I mean, for example, I don't do that much of it, but I have been involved in cases of child abuse, and you have to look at the evidence, and it's really not very nice to see. So that's tough. I mean, other difficult times are sometimes because the client is in that state of mind where they're not being as rational as they would be normally. And sometimes they do take it out on you. You know, you may be on the receiving end of being shouted at for no reason. And then they calm down and they let you know that later, because also if they don't, then yeah, we'll have to part ways. I don't want to be abused. And so, yeah, you don't. But it's just something that I kept doing somehow. And I do find it very, very interesting. And I constantly work at learning the new things which are coming out, or learning the skills around it. So, for example, getting certified in therapeutic justice, being trained as a mediator, even though I don't work as a mediator, but learning the skills of how to mediate between people, and even learning how to coach people through situations. None of it is law stuff, nor directly. Some of it is law stuff, but it's not always directly related. But it means that you have more skills and a bigger toolbox to be able to help people. And yeah, I do. I want people to come through it and say, yeah, that was actually less traumatic because you helped me do it. And I just don't I don't want the kids to suffer. It's really, really, really terrible. But the only way that you can break that cycle is for someone to be able to intervene and say, you know, we need to do things a bit differently here, and we need to focus on this and not on that, which is not always easy, because really sometimes it's people want to fight, or you want to earn that money. And you have to think of what really matters to your values. As Kathleen says, like the values to me are really putting family first. And so that's why I do it.
Do you have any advice for the audience, like, you know, when they are doing all this process?
I think you have to think about why you're doing it, and do a sort of a self-assessment. Okay, you think you want to divorce, and then start to think, how is my life going to change when I do this? And am I ready? Do I have the information I need? Financially, am I ready? Have I done my numbers? You know, you need to think of that. Do I have a support system who can help me through it? Who am I going to turn to in times of when I'm really distressed? And then the other thing to look at is, as Kathleen says, the rainbow at the end of it, which means looking at, well, where am I going to be? There's the old me and there's the new me. You have to keep your eye on the prize of the new me, and then get the information. And if you really don't understand it, then yes, you should have a chat with a lawyer. Just go and look for the one that gives free consultations.
Thanks.
See, that's a starting point, and then see how you go from there.
Yeah.
I mean, for anything, if you want to do it well, you need to be well prepared. Yeah, you can't do it in a half-hearted manner.
Yeah. Thanks for the summary, Iman. Yeah.
So just summarize for us.
You basically named out all the steps required already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, great.
So at the end of the day, going through what I went through, I think one good advice to most of the viewers would be knowing why you need to go for a divorce. That's step one, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing is for any battle that you want to fight. I call it fighting a battle, because that battle is you are fighting a battle with yourself as well, right? It's an emotional battle first. To fight any battle, you need to be well prepared. If you're not prepared, you cannot fight a battle. You cannot fight with yourself, internal self, because you don't even know what you don't know. Neither can you fight for the best for your future. Yeah, the future will entails maybe your child with you, to have the custody, to have the care and control. You need to think about the finances. You may want to have the child with you, but if you don't have a house to stay, you don't have the money to feed the child, what's next? So we don't just, I cannot just wake up and say, I want to have my kids with me. Then what? Or everybody goes hungry? We can't. So all these are very, very important factors to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an important point, actually, that there's a lifestyle change,
Mm.
that your lifestyle will not be the same. And maybe there are some things that you have to tolerate for the sake of moving forward. So, for example, maybe you have to tolerate moving back with your parents. It's a possibility. But then that's just temporary, because eventually you'll be able to get it together and move forwards and do something different. But you have to factor that in, because after you've lived by yourself, I mean, without your parents, then suddenly going back to living under their roof is... yeah, no, I know everyone's faces is just like,
Same.
oh no.
Happened to me
Can't
too.
imagine.
That's life, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I think viewers need to also understand. At the end of the day, is where you're gonna stay, right? So all these are the very practical questions that need to ask themselves first, and arm themselves with the knowledge. At least, if not, getting somebody to tell you what are the things that you need to look out for is very, very important. And that's why Iman is here with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, but before we end this sessions, we will be actually inviting a psychologist, and then we want to actually hear from his perspective regarding mental health of people going through divorce, things like that. So, audience, if you have some burning questions, please put them down in the comment sections, and we will have to address it in the next episode. So, I believe we are done for today.
So any questions, I think we can also leave it in the comment section, that we can check back with Iman, and then we can address your questions from there.
Yeah, why not?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really... It was just really very amazing that Kathleen reached out and said she was doing this, because it was something that has been recently in my mind as well, which is how can we help people get better knowledge and be guided without asking people to fight about it, you know, and I'm so happy we have this platform to do that.
Yes, I'm very happy too.
Iman, you have been very lovely, throughout this session. I barely only knew you like few hours. I believe the audience also love you as much. And and you definitely do have IG, right? Like,
yes,
account?
we do. We recently set up an Instagram profile for the family team in my law firm. We call ourselves the Peacemakers. So that's not the law firm name, because the other side of the law firm, the disputes team, they are not peacemakers. But we've decided to carve out our own little profile. And what's on our Instagram page is a little bit of snippets of information about divorce. It's not intended to be an advisory page, because we don't know you. I mean, we can't just randomly give advice to whoever out there. And also some other things that you might like to think about in the way of family law. And there's also a get to know you part, because I think, as we have talked about, the vibes need to be there. And you can't tell that from our website. And you may not even want to come out and meet me if you think that you really have no idea who I am. So I explained this to my team, because they're all quite shy. I'm not as shy as them. Convinced them that we need to make some reels. And so it's still in progress.
Okay.
But I think you've got the address.
Yes.
So we can, you can check back and have a look at that, and we will be updating it as we go along. It is just meant to be more of a get to know us, and a little bit of information to get you going. We will include some links to some of the websites we've talked about, which are the government websites that give you the OG information. I mean, do be careful about other third-party websites that are giving their interpretation of it, which may sometimes deviate from what is intended. So so the OG information will be there, and then you can see if you decide you want to get in touch, we're here. And if you don't, got other people lah.
Okay. I agree. So we'll definitely put down Iman's IG handle in the descriptions area. So please check it out. All right.
Yes, all right. Thank you so much, Iman, for your
Thank
time
you.
today.
No problem.
Thank you so
Hey.
much, Iman, and everyone in
Yes.
this team.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're very happy that we have everybody here.